Hi, so welcome to our presentation on homelessness in San Diego. Our group focused specifically on disabled homelessness, those homeless people struggling with mental health problems, and those homeless people with addiction. So first, we're going to get into all the numbers and the statistics of homelessness in San Diego specifically.
All right, so these numbers specifically illustrate that these particular issues of mental health, disability, and addiction are a major part of the problem with homelessness. So some of these statistics are that 25% of homeless individuals suffer from a serious mental illness, 36% of homeless individuals report having a physical disability, 38% of homeless individuals are alcoholics, and 26% of homeless individuals have a drug addiction. So this also explains that to address the issue of homelessness in San Diego, we also need to specifically address these three issues.
So the reason we chose to look at the homelessness crisis in California, specifically zooming in on disabled homeless and or homeless people struggling with mental health or addiction, is because from what we have seen when walking around in downtown San Diego, for example, ourselves, it's evident that many of the people living on the streets seem to be struggling with these sort of specific problems. We also thought that these problems were vital in examining when exploring homelessness, because not only are these people facing the stress of having no place to live, but they are also fighting internal demons that are controlling their lives, and they lack the resources and accessibility to seek help and counsel to help solve and fight these issues, which only leads them further down the path of homelessness if left untreated, as they often are. So different political leaders have approached the problem of homelessness in a variety of ways, and there are disagreements over what is the best way to approach this crisis. Some people believe that taxes should be risen to be used as handouts to homeless, while others are extremely against this. So that goes into the political divide over this crisis. And some people believe in charity, while others believe that there is corruptness in the charity system in many organizations. Also, many solutions and organizations that aim to combat homelessness do so without fully understanding the roots of the problems, and they attempt to solve the issue without properly including firsthand experiences of the homeless people themselves, and nothing without them is for them, as we learned throughout the class. Furthermore, California has one of the highest costs of living, and this is a main factor contributing to homelessness, and about 12% of the population in California is homeless, and the state accounts for the nation, or 25 to 30% of the nation's total homeless population, which is a very striking number that points to the fact that there must be something distinct to California and the reasoning for the number of homelessness being much higher here than in anywhere else.
Overall, so how did we end up here? Overall, California has the worst homeless crisis in the country. The homeless population increases each year by large percentages. For example, in 2019, the homeless population increased by 16%. The high cost of living and high cost of healthcare in California particularly, and in the United States generally, is highly responsible for this, especially regarding those who are mentally ill, dealing with addiction, and those who are disabled, because they don't have access to this healthcare that they are in desperate need of.
So the first issue we go into is disabilities. Oftentimes, those with disabilities have a difficult time finding jobs or getting access to resources, which makes it more difficult for them to find and keep housing. And this eventually forces them into the cycle of homelessness, and it's difficult for them to get out. Some of the organizations that help out and are focused on disabilities among the homeless population are the ARC of San Diego, Housing and Disability Advocacy Program, the Homeless Veterans of San Diego, and others. The second issue that we go into is mental health. Mental health disorders is common among the homeless population. Some common types of mental illnesses include depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, anxiety disorders, and substance abuse disorders. An individual's mental health disorder may lead to cognitive and behavioral problems that make it difficult to earn a stable income or carry out necessary activities for daily life. Being homeless can also exacerbate mental illnesses. It is important that mental illnesses are addressed in order to understand the larger scope of the homeless issue. Some organizations that are focused on mental health among the homeless are NAMI, Crossroads Foundation, Stay San Diego, and others. The final issue that we're going to go into is addiction, which, individuals with addiction oftentimes become homeless because their addiction gets in the way of their jobs or life generally. This gets in the way of their income, causing them to become homeless. Additionally, sometimes those who have mental health issues turn to substances, bringing them into addiction, strengthening the correlation between homelessness and addiction. Some of the organizations that go into addiction and focus on addiction among the homeless is Project One for All, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, and the National Alliance on Mental Illness.
All right, and then so we are going to present this image here and kind of what it means. So this photo is very telling about the homeless situation in San Diego because it pictures a homeless woman sleeping on the beach with a total of 11 people just completely ignoring her. This represents how ignorant people are to the issue of homelessness because oftentimes it doesn't affect them personally or interfere with their daily lives. So they just go on with them.
So one of the main organizations that we looked into was the Alpha Project, which is a nonprofit organization that was started in 1986 in San Diego. And they've created several programs, including affordable housing, outreach programs, drug and alcohol treatments, employment, job training, mental health counseling. And all these upon completion should help people achieve an optimum level of independence and achieve self-sufficiency. These programs aim to help people become educated, employed, sober, and or stable. And the organization's goal is not to manage homelessness, but rather to end it, which is key in determining that the organization is ethical and has the right intentions, because there is an end goal to it that doesn't involve just benefiting the organization itself, but rather the people out there helping. So the Alpha Project serves around 4,000 people each day. They provide over 24,000 people with the assistance they need per year. Additionally, Alpha Project has created 6,000 units of rental housing projects and sustained more than 900 units of permanent affordable housing. And all of these numbers are proof that the resources going into Alpha Project, such as the funding, are being put to good use and are actually making a concrete difference in achieving the organization's goals.
Right. So another organization we looked at is the San Diego Rescue Mission, which explain that they help restore the lives of people experiencing homelessness, abuse, poverty, or addiction through faith-based emergency services, residential rehabilitation programs, children's services, hunger relief efforts, and community outreach. Their emergency services help get people off the streets immediately and get them to a safe place to stay. They also have their Bread of Life Center, which provides people with food, clothes, and other immediate needs. Their Mission Academy is a 12-month residential program that provides education and training to get people back on their feet. Their preschool provides education and care for 2 to 5-year-olds at no cost. And their Walk With Me program partners individuals on a one-on-one basis with volunteers to help and mentor them.
So another organization that we chose was the La Mostra Community Health Cares, which offers medical home to over 45,000 patients from East Central and South San Diego County. From 1990, when the organization first opened, they had only one volunteer and physician, and the organization has now grown to a federally qualified health center with 10 locations located in underserved communities throughout San Diego. There are over 500 staff and dozens of volunteers that help 45,000 patients a year to access of healthcare and social services. Most of the individuals who need help are immigrants, refugees, homeless people who are in low income communities. But the main goal overall is that it provides quality healthcare and education and improves the overall well-being of families, and also brings the underserved ethnicity diverse communities into the mainstream of our society. So A location that is known for their homeless crisis is San Francisco, which is located in the Bay Area of California. The homeless crisis in San Francisco is quite severe. Since 2018, the number of homeless people in San Francisco has only increased to over 8,000 people. Childhood trauma, mental health issues, and poverty can be factors of homeless problems. But the biggest factor in San Francisco is that housing has gotten way too scarce and expensive. When income's gotten way too scarce and expensive, it keeps the pace with the cost of rent. A cascade effect ripples through the housing market. It's the idea of musical chairs, where people who have a disadvantage compared to others, such as mental health issues, substance abuse disorder, or disabilities, are least likely to get their chair when playing the metaphorical game. Another location known for their homeless crisis is San Diego. A 22% spike in homelessness happened from April to May alone in 2021. There has been a 62% increase in downtown outskirts, and in downtown San Diego, partnership counted 1,157 homeless San Diegans and 389 tents. There has been a 21% increase in dispatch calls responding to people considered to be in crisis from 2019 to 2020. In the first 5 months of 2021 alone, there was a 5% increase of people in distress compared to the first 5 months of 2020. And then from July to December of 2020, the city posted 1,607 notices at homeless camps monthly and 234 cleanups. From March to May, the city posted 950 notices and 123 cleanups. Police state that the pandemic restrictions have complicated their ability to crack down crime and disorder. So how has the pandemic affected the homeless crisis? Well, since the beginning of the pandemic, there has been a huge problem regarding the health and lives of the homeless. With homeless people crammed on the streets with not enough room to socially distance themselves, the probability of them catching COVID is much higher. Homeless individuals struggling with drug addictions could put them at higher risk as well in getting the virus. Now more than ever, the homeless need housing and need to get off the streets to avoid catching the virus, but there is not enough housing for the astonishing amount of homeless people. Lastly, I watched a YouTube video from a channel called Soft White Underbelly, which interviews people that live on Skid Row in Los Angeles. The specific person that I watched a video on was Patience, who is a 11-year-old girl, and she was being interviewed. In the YouTube channel that interviews people who live on Skid Row, and they get their background story of how they ended up there. She is an 11-year-old girl that is going into the 6th grade. She lives in a tent on Skid Row with her mother, Alicia. Patience grew up and endured lots of traumatic experiences. She said that her father was never really in the picture and that she was mainly raised by her mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother. For most of her life, she grew up in Alaska, and she recalled that her grandma, mom, and sister would have lots and lots of fights that usually would turn violent. Patience and her mom moved to California hoping for a better life, but it fell through. Patience said that the older siblings are drug addicts, and she expects her younger sibling to become one as well. She says that she has no friends on Skid Row and that there is no secure housing available at this time for her and her mother.
So next, we are just going to talk about the lessons we learned doing this project. So the first one is to solve the problem of homelessness, we must first address the issues of addiction, mental health, and accessibility for those who are disabled. We also learned that we must include those who are or who have been homeless in these conversations because they have this lived experience that is invaluable to finding solutions, and they are the best resources to find solutions to these problems. And then the last thing is that nonprofits and other organizations must be committed to ending homelessness rather than just helping the problem. They should hope for the end of their own organization because they should hope to end the homelessness.
Thank you for listening.